We can let others in as they get here. But thanks so much to those of you who are here on time. Great to see many of you, and I know we have a number of other registered folks as well. So we'll just let people in as they come. Tabitha, feel free to do that as well. Um, so thank you everyone for being here. I am Max Altman. I'm the Director of Research and Policy at the Southern Education Foundation. We will talk a bit about ourselves just briefly in just a couple of minutes. Many of you may already be familiar with the organization, but we are the oldest education justice organization in the country, founded in 1867. And we are very happy to see all of you. As I'm sure you know, this is an info session about our newly launched research fellowship. Uh, if you just to make sure to clarify, SEF does have a couple other fellowships. Uh, our Southern Education Leadership Initiative Fellowship, our Promise Network Fellowship, formerly called RELLIN. If you are looking for info on any of those fellowships, you may be in the wrong session. This is a research fellowship session. So just a note. For a couple of folks who had some questions in the registration that led me to believe they may have been looking for a different one, but hopefully everyone who is here on purpose. So I'll let us get started. As I said, I'm Max Altman. I'm the Director of Research and Policy here at SEF. I'm here with my colleague Tabitha Reynolds-Hong, who let's say hello for a minute here.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you today. Thanks for joining us.
Tabitha is our research and policy analyst at SEF, and we are also fortunate to be joined by SEF's current research fellow, who is kind enough to join, Kelsey Dalrymple. Kelsey, if you want to say hello for a second to everyone as well.
Yeah, hi everybody. Great to be here and happy to answer questions and talk about things you're interested in.
So thank you, Kelsey. So we're going to run through this. Uh, Feel free to hop in with questions as we go. Right now, we've got a fairly small group, not too unmanageable. So you're welcome to do that. You can also write questions in the chat, and you can also hold them for the end. The information in this presentation, which we are recording, by the way, any folks who ask specific questions, we'll cut that from the recording, but we'll post the just us talking part of the recording online so people can access it and take a look if they missed this, as I know some people did, especially given that it's already mid-December. So feel free to ask. There's not too much information here. Overall, feel free to ask questions at any time. And as Kelsey was kind enough to join, if you have any specific questions for her as a research fellow, I think she'll be happy to answer those if she can as well. If there are any questions that are more complicated than a simple response, we can definitely follow up or get back to you, and you're also welcome to follow up with us afterward. But we will just get started. So to begin, I'd love to just hear, if you don't mind, taking a moment, not required, but to just let us know, kind of what you do and what your research focus is, to share in the chat so we can all kind of see who's here and what our interests are. As we've mentioned in some of the materials, there may be connections between potential research fellows that may even lead to some joint work. So I'll give you just a minute to do that if you'd like. And while you are starting to, excellent, while you're starting to do that, I will hand it over to Tabitha to walk us a little bit through a bit of information about SEF.
Thank you, Max. So, Southern Education Foundation, as Max alluded to earlier, was founded in 1867 and stands as the nation's longest standing education opportunity organization in the nation. We are committed to advancing educational policies and practices that elevate learning for students from low-income families and students of color in the South. SEF has continuously worked to disrupt systemic inequities in education by providing technical assistance to build capacity, research-based solutions, strengthening advocacy efforts, and developing transformational education leaders. SEF also works across the entire education continuum, from early learning to and through post-secondary education, to ensure every student, regardless of race, income, or zip code, receives a high-quality education that unlocks opportunity and success. And we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So you can see this modeled out here in this chart. Again, we work across the whole education continuum. So topics from early childhood education through post-secondary are welcome. We also have 4 strategy areas. Those are research and data, public policy and advocacy, leadership development, and strategic initiatives. And as you can see, SEF's definition of the South is a little broader than most you'll see. So we'll go to the map on the next page. And you can see that we cover 17 states in our SEF Southern region. So we have 17 states in our region. And with that, I will pass it to Max.
Within the research and policy team, we have a pretty broad range of work that we do. We publish major reports and briefs. Some of you may be familiar with a couple of our more recent major reports. At the top left here, that's our Miles to Go report that came out in October of last year. Our Economic Vitality and Education in the South report below that, that focuses on side of the return on investment for education and education adjacent improvements. Came out in 2022. And we've got an example here of a higher education report from partnership with the University of Alabama at the top right, as well as an early childhood report that came out last year. At the bottom right here, we oversee a lot of kind of reporting and sharing of information, both original and synthesized from elsewhere. We conduct empirical studies, as certainly I anticipate many of you are doing as well, given that you are here. We support a number of collaborative partnerships and networks. Given SEF's long history and our standing, it is very important to us to support collaboration and collaborative education improvement to break down silos and to move work forward. So we look to do as much of that as we are able. And then we work, as do many research and policy teams, to enable continuous improvement in a variety of ways, both internal and external. We introduced this research fellowship specifically because we very much in line with our continual work to improve the education ecosystem, to increase opportunity to do good work and good thinking, and especially at a time like today, to really support research, which is often increasingly difficult to do, done in contexts that are increasingly limited for a range of reasons. There are also frequently, increased funding challenges and access challenges and all kinds of pieces. So we can talk about all of that coming up for sure. Thank you so much to the most of you who have shared your research interests in the chat as well. This is looking great. I was very interested to see kind of the wide range of folks who had submitted registrations among those of you who shared your focus. So thank you for doing that. So what is this fellowship? Well, as you may have seen from some of the materials, if you check them out already, this is a way to provide researchers with the ability to design and implement their own project, as you are likely doing anyway, alone or collaboratively with other fellows under SEF's auspices. I will note, humorously but emphatically, this is not a paid fellowship. It does not provide funding. However, one thing that it does do is give you a potential advantage in searching for funding, both as an SEF fellow writ large, and also because, as we'll talk about in a bit, and happy to answer more questions about this, SEF to some extent can support you in sort of working to identify potential avenues for funding and things like that. Although, again, we do not provide funding as part of the fellowship. However, we do provide support from the research and policy team, of whom Tabitha is excellent member. You'll meet the rest of the team, if you join us, as well as as needed potentially from sort of the accounting side, as far as some of the grant management pieces as well, and for accepted fellows, that'll be something that we can kind of discuss in more detail. But happy to answer questions about it as we go. The intent of this fellowship, again, is to provide recognition for high quality, justice focused work taking place in the South. That is where SEF focuses. I'll say this a couple of times as we chat, but if you want to get a better sense of the work we do, please feel free to take a look at those reports. I would say especially our Miles to Go report, which you can find pretty easily from our website. that does give a pretty good overview of the kinds of issues we talk about. And the Miles to Go report especially stretches from early childhood through K-12 in its through post-secondary in its scope. So you can really see kind of some of the major issues that we focus on. And then again, in case you missed the first bullet, this does not provide funding. It is not a funded opportunity. So I will let Tabitha introduce Kelsey, our current fellow, who, Kelsey, feel free to just kind of chat for a minute about your work with us. We can pause here to see if people have any questions for you or me, or us, I mean, and then go from there. But thanks again for being here, and Tabitha, I'll let you cue us up.
All right, thanks, Max. SEF has supported research fellows in different capacities for more than a century. Earlier on one of our introduction slides, we showed that W.B. Du Bois was our very first research fellow. I didn't brag on it then, so I'm going to brag on it now. Very important to history of our organization. And this fellowship reflects a return to that work. So we do currently host one research fellow, that's Kelsey, who's here with us today. Kelsey, would you like to tell us a little bit about your study?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, and it's lovely to be with you all. So a little bit about me. I'm currently a teaching faculty member at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I'm in the Department of Educational Policy Studies. I've completed my PhD in 2024 and got really lucky to be provided with the opportunity to stick with my department while I continue looking for opportunities for research and teaching. Previous to working on my doctorate, I was in the field of education and humanitarian response. So primarily working on refugee education initiatives. And so I looked at that through my doctoral work, but more through a critical social justice equity-based lens. And in all truth, I came across SEF because my husband decided once I finished my PhD, oh, good, it's now time for him to start a PhD. And so he is actually going to be starting his own doctoral program this summer at UGA at the Gwinnett campus. And so I started looking for opportunities around research and other connections in the area. I knew that I wanted to continue working on refugee education initiatives, but I focused my doctoral work specifically on social and emotional learning, knowing that it was such a huge thing in the United States for so long. It crept its way into the humanitarian architecture. So I myself, for years, was doing social and emotional learning with refugee communities around the world. And through my doctoral work, sort of realized, let's critically reflect on some of this work. And I realized that there were opportunities to bridge my work in international context with what's happening domestically, recognizing that we have a lot of refugees and immigrants here in the US, even though that political landscape is changing day by day. But I identified a school, and I thought this could be an interesting opportunity to connect with a school and see what might benefit them and bring my skills and interests and work on something together. And so we identified the fact that they're using a very commonly used SEL curriculum that they didn't feel was very culturally responsive to their incredibly diverse student body, not only diverse in immigration status, but also linguistically, culturally, epistemologically. And so we thought, okay, maybe we can come up with a project together whereby we co-create an SEL curriculum. And so, having already found a potential partner school, I thought there must be some other folks who might be interested in this work. And I came across SEF. And when I looked at SEF's past and interests, I thought, interesting, I don't see a lot of work specifically focusing on refugee communities. This might be a gap. And so, was very lucky to get a meeting with Max and Tabitha in person to sort of pitch my idea to them. And they were incredibly receptive, and it really helped me think through some other pieces of this co-creation process, knowledge co-production, and then also talking about documenting that process. What could we pull out of this to look at a bigger picture to inform policy and practice more largely, not just across the South, but across the US writ large. And so we've applied for a couple of grants together. Right now, I'm waiting to hear back about a big grant that I applied for with their help. And so While this is not a financial opportunity, which might be a bummer for a lot of you, it's a really wonderful opportunity to not only be affiliated with an incredibly important organization doing really wonderful work, but also to tap into the knowledge and expertise that not only Max and Tabitha have, but also SEF writ large. And also just to have thought partners to really think through some of the logistical pieces of your project or the theoretical pieces, but then also how are we going to link this to policy and practice in the real world? So it's just been really wonderful working with both of them to mold, evolve, shape this project, and then have a little gold star on your applications for funding, because SEF has a wonderful reputation. So you sort of have an umbrella home with resources, thought partners, collaboration, dialogue. And I'm really looking forward to working with the new fellows, to have more people to think about how could we potentially collaborate and work together. So yeah, just really excited and really glad that I sent that cold email to Matt saying, would you by chance be free for an in-person meeting? And then from there, it really blossomed into a really great partnership and collaborative relationship. So I'll pause there. Happy to answer any questions or go over any details.
Thanks so much, Kelsey. That was helpful. So you all heard, and again, feel free to hop in now or later with any questions. You all heard a pretty good overview of many of the items on this list. This is the list of things that we did specifically with Kelsey, but it is reflexive of the kind of work we anticipate doing with fellows. I'll talk in a minute about this, but fellows will not owe deliverables or submit progress reports or anything like that. This is not that kind of sort of comes with homework fellowship. Being recognized, for this first cohort of official SEF fellows is the outcome. It's it's a fellowship award in a sense. And then we hope that all of our fellows, and as you may have seen, this will be a pretty small pilot class, probably 3 to 5 fellows. But we imagine that all our fellows will want to take advantage of the resource that SEF have, but there's no kind of requirements other than that you have scoped a project that you intend to actually engage in. If you were to be accepted as a fellow and then do no things, you would still be a fellow for the year term. It just probably wouldn't have been a very good use of the opportunity. So we can support study development, as Kelsey mentioned. We can support reviewing grant applications, providing feedback, helping to look for additional opportunities for funding, kind of given our knowledge, or to talk you through things, and again, to use our infrastructure on the financial side as well.
Hey, yeah, thank you. And hello, everyone. Thank you for this really special opportunity to learn more about this. I have 2 questions. The first is on the previous slide, it said that there was support from the policy and or finance accounting team. Thank you. And so it sounds like the support from the accounting team would come in terms of applying for other grants and that kind of financial kind of guidance. Is that right? And then what would the policy kind of access, or what would that consist of? And my second question is, are you accepting historical studies?
Well, I can answer the second question. Yes, we are.
Okay.
As far as the first question, yes. So many times in grant proposals, first of all, many granting organizations require that proposals come from an organization and not from an individual. You need an EIN and so forth and so on. But many others, even if they don't do that, will require kind of proof of financial management ability. So, for example, that is something that SEF clearly has plenty of, that an individual, even though they can certainly handle it, may not have direct evidence of from a previous grant in a similar style. SEF can serve as the fiscal agent, which is just kind of helpful with the payment of the grant and the managing of the funds. So we are, many people are often actually surprised by how few staff SEF has, given how widely we work and how kind of much output we have in a given year. But we are a fairly small, flexible organization, and we intend for the support for fellows to be flexible as well. So it will, I'm giving a general answer here, but certainly there's round one where you give us your 500 to 1500 word overview of, what you're thinking of as far as a study. And then for those who we follow up with for round two, we will talk in more detail about what support is useful. Is that helpful, Catherine? Is there any more I can say, or is that good?
Yes, thank you so much. No, that's helpful.
You got a question for us?
Hi, Max and Tabitha. Yeah, I do have a question. I'm wondering if preference is given to the size of the project or the scope of the project. If projects are fairly small in size, are those just what I want to say, not given the same consideration?
That's a great question. We are looking for projects primarily that fit with SEF's justice focus, that take place in the South, and that are focused on education improvement. I would not say that the size of the project, I think it's certainly possible to have a project that is so small it might not make sense for a research fellow, but that would be, I think, a really tiny project. I would not anticipate, we're not looking for large scale projects over small scale projects or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Great question. Any other questions at the moment?
We have a question in the chat, Max. It says, is the fellowship open to international applicants?
Just seeing that. Thank you. That's a great question. So the answer to that is yes, absolutely. As you've likely seen in the fellowship materials, we are looking for studies that take place in the U.S. South or focus primarily on the U.S. South. However, if there's some other considerations in the application, if you have a very strong argument for alignment or something like that, please feel free to include it. But generally, we are looking for studies that focus on the American South. But it certainly where the fellowship is very much open to international applicants. I will keep going, but feel free to add questions, raise your hand, or just hop on video. So why do this? Well, we just talked a little bit about some of this. One primary reason is recognition and support for your work from the nation's oldest education justice organization. Some of you may already be very familiar with SEF, but I say, without intending to overly aggrandize our work, that we are certainly a well-known organization, and this will certainly be, a high-level fellowship that will be a definite benefit to those who receive it. We are a positive and flexible environment. We work very flexibly across a number of different topics, as you can see in our many reports and our plenty of other work. And we really love to support and work toward positive education outcomes. So it's a great place to work. It's a great place to be, and it's a great set of folks to interact with. I didn't, I think, fully actually respond, Catherine, to your policy question. We are the research and policy team, but one of their strong advantages at SEF is that we work very closely with our public policy / our government affairs team, as well as our leadership development team. We've got a number of other initiatives. So it's a very kind of interactive environment where there's a lot of knowledge and very effective access to it. So that includes between research and policy, between research policy and leadership development, as well as with our finance teams and such. Yes. Free to hop in with your question, please.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, good afternoon.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that my geographical location now is in Nigeria. So I want to ask again. So can I apply, and then my case study will also be in Nigeria? So that is my question.
So the preference will go to studies that focus primarily on the U.S. South. So if your study is focused exclusively or primarily in Nigeria, I would expect that would likely just not be a fit with this fellowship, given our location. But I'm happy to follow up if you want to talk in a little more detail. We can definitely chat a bit more about exactly what you're thinking and whether it makes sense. Feel free to, to send me an email or to follow up if that's not, if you think there might still be, some details to discuss. I'm happy to chat more about it. But in general, the person doesn't need to be in any particular location, but we would expect that the study being proposed should at least largely focus on the southern United States.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so
Absolutely.
much.
Yeah, for sure. Are there clarifying questions at the moment?
We have a couple questions in the chat. However, a few of them might be answered in the next few slides. And if we don't fully answer your questions, let us know and we'll elaborate on those.
Gina. You got your hand up. You're welcome to ask your question if you'd like. Maybe an audio. Well, feel free to hop in.
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Am I free to ask?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Thank you for this program. My question is this: since this is mainly for those in the South, in the US, so when will you be extended for those of international fellows, most especially as my brother asked from Nigeria? So when are we expecting that this should be extended to us? That's my question. Thank you.
That's a great question. So, Tabitha and I were actually just talking about this morning. I would love this is this will be our first full year of this research fellowship. It is in some sense a pilot year. And we will be looking to work with this cohort of fellows to really build out a program that meets their needs and makes sense. While the Southern Education Foundation is based in the South and focuses its work on the South, I love the idea of including. I've worked in comparative and international education research myself. I love the idea of including a comparative international component. I love the idea of thinking about how we can build broader studies and broader examinations that include not just pan-United States investigations, but also international research, which in many cases challenges a lot of the assumptions I think we hold pretty strictly in a lot of U.S. education work. International systems, of course, are often so different than the very specific, federalized national to state education system that we have in the United States. I think there's a lot of opportunity to make those connections. For this pilot year of the fellowship, I would anticipate that we would expect studies that focus, pretty firmly on the South. But again, we're open to hear your thinking if you'd like to, to share it with us in beyond that. And please feel free if you have thoughts, ideas, requests, suggestions for strategies to do something like that to kind of expand the thinking, and you've got kind of a theory or an approach to do that, please feel more than free to follow up. I'd love to hear what you have in mind. So I would say, if things go as planned here and this cohort is a successful one that works as we expect and the studies go well, I would love to continue to expand kind of the opportunity within the program. But I would expect that there would always be, the expectation that the work should be at least in some way connected to an investigation happening in the South United States, simply because we are the Southern Education Foundation. So hopefully that's helpful. Any other questions about that at the moment? Does that make sense?
I would like to go again. And this might be a suggestion. So maybe I would like to suggest that maybe we can also maybe collaborate with maybe with somebody from the US and maybe Nigeria or maybe any other African, so that we can do like a comparative kind of like a research, maybe comparing what's happening in the South and what's also happening in Nigeria too. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that would be very interesting. I'd be very happy to consider proposals that involve, joint research, including both, Nigeria, this country and the Southern United States. So I think that's a great idea, and we'd be very happy to read proposals on a topic like that. We already talked a bit about this penultimate bullet here that many funders and grant makers require an organization to apply. And then one other note here, as far as benefits for SEF research fellows, is that if when implementation challenges arise, obviously as an individual or small team, it's often just much more difficult to deal with those as they come up. SEF can protect and insulate against some of those risks. So these are some of the we've chatted about most of these already. These are some of the reasons that we think this may be a particularly beneficial fellowship for folks, particularly now. So please keep the questions coming. Thank you so much for those of you who are asking and hearing the answers here. I will shift this over to Tabitha to talk about the first stage of application. Please note there are two. Tabitha, take it away.
All right, and again, as I said, I know there's a few questions that are going to pertain to these following slides. So if we don't answer those questions fully, please let us know and we'll elaborate on anything that isn't clear. So our step one in our application process, applications are now open. They're going to be open through January 15th, 2026. Requirements for this first stage of applications is to submit an initial proposal between 500 and 1,500 words, and this will outline your study and include a description of your topic, your tentative research questions, a brief but clear explanation of your framework and methods you want to use in your analysis, expected needs and timeline. Please remember that the fellowship terms are for 1 year, but can be renewed for ongoing work. And then any additional considerations. You can visit the website, and I'll post this link as well in the chat in just a moment, but you can visit the website for more information and to fill out the application form online.
This is up already, so you can take a look at this form right now. So please do feel free to check it out and just let us know if you have any questions about the process. But this is, so again, this is phase one, Catherine, as per your question in the chat, and applications being accepted through January 15th. So everybody had the benefit of the holidays to get things together. And this is only a 1,500 word or less outline of the study that includes those pieces. So this is the primary first step, and then we will follow up with a selection of successful step one applicants regarding step two. So given that this is the current and primary step, are there any questions? Hopefully this is pretty clear and straightforward. Feel free to check out what's up on the website where you can see exactly what you need to submit. Are there any additional questions? Yeah.
This is such a compelling opportunity. The question that came to my mind is if an applicant feels passionately about two projects, right? And can't decide which one would be the better one to submit. Can the person submit two? No, just one.
Two. Yeah, I mean, if the person wants to take up the time to write a full proposal for both of the two, I think that's totally fine.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, certainly I would encourage in general, I would encourage folks who are considering, a proposal to make sure they have enough time and effort to focus on, on one and making it very, very strong. But there's no reason submissions. And I would say, if anyone does submit to or plan to submit to, maybe just send me an email or, ask them to send me an email to just kind of check in and let me know. And we may even connect briefly, sort of before we go through the whole review process, like in mid to late January or something, just to talk it through. But yes, these are one thing that I hope is fairly clear is that hold on. Sorry, there's a question in the chat. Yes, and you can, Julio, you can take a look at what the actual form is to kind of see what you can include. There is a section for references. They don't count toward the word count. I simply due to data security, we don't have the option to upload. You have to write your thing in the chat. So there's not a separate space to upload an appendix. But if you do have an additional document that you would like, to be considered. That's not just like I wrote an extra 1,000 words that doesn't fit in the, in the required space, but that is legitimately like an appendix style thing. You're welcome to just check in with me separately and share that. And that's totally fine. And yes, I love, by the way, that that several of you are already connecting with folks from your alma maters or who may be interested in working together, on various topics. We hope that even just this conversation, let alone the fellowship, will be a great opportunity to bring folks together who are doing related work. That would be fantastic. So thanks for using that for that as well. Feel free to follow up with one another, and we can, and to follow up with us as well if you're interested in, in more conversation around that. Are there, Cheryl, did I answer your question? Did I finish answering your question?
You
Okay,
did.
great.
Thank you.
Excellent. Perfect. So we'll then to the second piece. So this should be, a clear overview. Oh, and what I had started to say earlier that I just wanted to get through that beforehand is hopefully it's clear that this is a fellowship that is for folks who already have full capacity to do a study. You should be able to arrange the partnerships that you need. We'll talk a little more about this, as we finish up, but to, have, be able to, get the memoranda of understanding that you'll have to get signed, your data sharing agreements, and to scope and plan out the study. You'll have support from SEF, but, it's expected that these will be studies that can just go and that the people who are proposing them will be able to just manage them. So, given that, I think per Cheryl's question about a couple of different studies, if someone has the capacity to legitimately engage with either of those studies and can do that during the term, then that's a perfectly fine thing to do. Just make sure, I would say, don't submit with hope that isn't necessarily kind of backed up by confidence in in your kind of capacity or timeline or whatever the case may be. Make sure that you actually have the ability to engage with the study if you are brought on. And please do note that, as Tabitha mentioned, if you propose a study that is longer than a year or that takes longer than a year and you're accepted as a research fellow, you don't have to stop being a research fellow if you still have research ongoing at the end of the year. We can certainly talk about renewing for another term. That's absolutely no problem. And in fact, Kelsey, I am fairly confident, has been involved with SEF for at least a little more than a year already. Yeah, it's going on 2 now, probably. I think it's way longer than I think it is. So, because her work has been ongoing, because she's continually looking for funding for the study and continuing to work on iterations of the study, it has been absolutely fine to extend her fellowship time. We have no problem with that whatsoever. I just wanted to mention that as well. So then this is the, step 2, not to be done right now. The step 1 is the initial application, but so you are aware, if your initial proposal is advanced, that will be in a review conversation involving the research and policy team, as well as SEF's leadership, senior leadership. If it's advanced, then we'll ask for a full proposal. So just please, if you submit something, please be able to also do these next pieces, including confirmed partners and sites, steps for finalizing any remaining details that are not currently finalized that make sense and are clear to follow, a proposed budget. Just again, one note, we'll support you in seeking funding. So we're asking for a budget for that reason, not because there's any funding provided by SEF. But one thing that we are offering that we've kind of alluded to is if you need SEF support, we, from the research and policy team, so forth and so on, you can let us know in your budget what you think you'll need. And we are happy, assuming we have capacity and the support requested is feasible, to provide that at cost. So you can just write that directly into your budget as well. We can work with you on that part. We obviously don't expect you to know like what it would cost for SEF to be able to do something to support, but just include that in your budget, as well as, of course, if this is a study, that will serve as income for you, include your own income expenses, any funding for partners or sites, as well as any documents that need to go with that, any materials or other project needs, and then any supports that are additionally needed in step 2. Again, we expect fully that everyone will have the time, capacity, and knowledge to actually lead and engage this process. There may be, future opportunities for more developmental research fellowships, but this is not that. This is a fellowship for folks who are very prepared and able to to be able to do their studies. So we don't have a length here, Catherine, for this. I would say for the most part, we can chat if you're selected for that second round, but it's for the most part just the amount of time that you think you'd need to write it up pithily enough, to be legible, but also with enough to be fully understandable. So if you, Katerina, if you have a study that you are already working on that you would like to propose additional work for, you are more than welcome to do that. That absolutely fits within the request. We did have one question in that I'll mention now in the registrations that was, is this open to folks who are, say, working on writing up a book or doing writing for a study? The answer is, if writing is the only thing that'll be happening for the study, then no, that would not be one I would expect that we would accept. But that, of course, is in your scope that you're presenting. You'll tell us the research that you plan to do. So if the scope is just like, writing from June to December, that's not something that would be selected for the fellowship. But if the scope is already done with part one of the study or with the pilot version, I want to go on to part two, that's absolutely fine. Any other clarifying questions on that? That was a great question from Katerina. Other questions on that? Does that make sense? Perfect. All right. And yes, again, we are very happy to follow up with you individually. So if you have any other questions, or if you have questions that we haven't answered, quite to your satisfaction, please feel more than free to check in with us. I've got my contact info at the end of this presentation, and you are more than welcome to follow up. I'm happy to respond. So we will move on to this kind of overview that will answer, I think, many of the remaining questions, but let us know what you have here. Go ahead, Tabitha.
Sure. So briefly, SEF takes a broad view of research and those who conduct it. So we don't have a specific education level like a PhD in mind or research characteristics for what is required to participate in the fellowship. However, it is expected, as Max has noted a few times throughout the presentation, that applicants will clearly demonstrate a combination of education and research experience that qualify them to competently manage a research study. So these are things like having a high level of competency in research design, selecting appropriate analytical methods, being able to manage the IRB process, study partnerships, site management, data use and sharing management, etc. And just a note here, this fellowship includes support as needed, but it is not considered a developmental fellowship. A few things I want to get to in the chat because they're actually not on this slide. Max, someone asked, or Mara asked, how are we defining early to mid-career professionals or researchers?
The slide. Vaguely, broadly, vaguely, I would say, for the most part, the expectation is that, if that August faculty members who have been, at an institution doing research or at a nonprofit doing research for the last 30 years, this may not be quite, SEF has distinguished advisors. And if you are interested in that kind of context in developing a relationship with SEF, we are happy to do so. But we wouldn't expect that this kind of fellowship would necessarily be exactly that pathway simply because, this is for folks who who can really benefit from SEF accolades and from support and looking for additional connections and so forth and so on. So if you don't feel confident that you are a late career researcher, I think you are very possibly early to mid career, and there's no reason that we are going to be kind of picky about who you need to be. Just as Tabitha noted, we are expecting that applicants will have the ability to manage the study and know how things work. So, I received a question on LinkedIn that was, would this fellowship be open to undergraduates? And my response was, this fellowship is open to any applicants, but I simply cannot imagine any world where an undergraduate would have enough research knowledge to be able to do the things we're expecting. Now, this question came from a Morehouse student, so if anyone's going to prove me wrong, it's probably a Morehouse undergraduate. But I would be very, very surprised if an undergraduate was able to apply, successfully for this fellowship. Although I'm sure stranger things have happened in the world. So for the most part, it's open to graduate students. It's open to folks who have PhDs. It's open to folks who have master's degrees, who have been working in the field and has been doing research, or bachelor's degrees as well, who've been involved in research, who have the research chops to do this sort of work. We are trying not to be picky about specific characteristics so that we can be open to the widest range of studies as long as they fall within kind of these expectations around ability to manage and knowledge of the research. Are there other questions you saw in the chat, Tabitha, that we should get to now that I missed?
No, I think the others will be answered on our next slide.
Got it. Perfect. All right. I believe that is me. So here's kind of the last piece. As I said, we expect selection to be highly competitive. We only got about 40%, 30% to 40% of registrants joining this webinar, and this is already at least 4 times as many people as the possible open number of slots. So again, we really will be focused on alignment, on the kind of justice focused nature of your work, and on the capacity for learning about education improvement opportunities. Feel free to follow up if you want to speak more about that. But basically, there's not a detailed rubric because we are looking for a broad range of potential types of research and approaches to research that link up and line up well with what SEF does. So we will assess proposals instead based on the quality and completeness of the study proposed. Please make sure what you submit is clear. We don't mind asking a clarifying question or two if needed, but if we're reading the study overview and we can't tell everything about what the study is, from the pithy overview enough to know what's being proposed, that's unlikely to be advanced. So please make sure you've been clear. Please make sure you ask questions if you have them. We are happy to answer. And then just to give a little bit more detail on this, SEF does a lot. We work across a wide range of topics in a wide range of grade bands. We're currently working on an update to our Just Learning report that is focused on education in the criminal justice system, as well as we are getting ready to put out part 2 of our Economic Vitality and Education in the South report, which is economics-focused projections for a post-pandemic South. Our Miles to Go report from last year is the state of education for Black students in America. So it's a very wide range of topics. Please feel free to investigate, to look more, and to see how we fit with your work. But we expect that you will be clear in your proposal about what your fit is, what you see as your fit with our work, and if not extremely obvious, kind of why and how, and that your studies, while we are open to a very wide range of topics, as many of you have already shared across quite differing fields in the chat, that they will in some ways address issues of what you might want to call education justice, education equity, education opportunity, education improvement, something along those lines, however kind of your framing may be about it, that will be the focus of the studies that we are accepting here. Can you say more about your volunteering question?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm asking about the volunteering part. For instance, if someone that is not a US citizen but has acquired so many experience in this same field from other part of the world, but is around in the United States for a while. So my question is, can this type of person decide to apply just through the volunteering aspect to contribute to the to attain the objective of the organization or of the project?
Interesting. I would say that being an SEF research fellow is not quite the right avenue for that. But if you are interested in something like that, please feel free to follow up with me. I'm happy to chat about potential opportunities to volunteer and to chat and collaborate around education issues for sure. Please feel free to check in. That's a very interesting idea. I like it. So, Catherine, the expectation is that that's a great question that I did not answer. So if it's mid-January, it's possible that deadline will get extended a week or two, depending on kind of people's timing, but we expect it to be, as of now, mid-January is when that closes. I would anticipate that by the first week of February, we will be following up, maybe the second, but within the next 3 weeks, give or take, that we'll be following up with folks who submitted advanced proposals for the next phase. And then that next phase will have about 3 to 4 weeks to prepare the more detailed version. So I would say, please kind of have in mind what those pieces for phase 2 may be as you're submitting phase 1. It won't be, there won't be 3 months to write up your phase 2 proposal, but we expect to give at least 3 to 4 weeks to advance proposals to make sure you have time to get it to us. And of course, if we're advancing your proposal, it means that we like it and we think it's interesting. So you are, as always, at any time welcome to reach out to us if you have any questions, if there's anything you want to discuss, if you want to sort of ask, well, could we do it in some other way? We're happy to hear people's specifics. We don't want this to feel like a kind of a cold procedure-based process that isn't flexible. So feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. But no, absolutely. That's a great question. Juliana, I'll give you our contact information on the last slide so you can follow up with an email, and I'm happy to take some time to chat.
Yes. So I know it said there won't be any necessarily, if we receive the fellowship, there won't be any deliverables. But what will be the action items? Like, will we have monthly Zooms, or what will the fellowship be doing in terms of interaction with you all?
That's a great question. So there will be two sides to that. The first side will be an individual fellow's interaction with us. And that will be, once accepted as a fellow, we will have an immediate conversation with you to talk through the study you proposed, our thoughts on those pieces, and to just work out what support from SEF is most useful and how we can best support your work. Our goal, and I want to be very clear about this, at SEF, if you are accepted as a fellow, it is because we want to stand behind the study we just accepted. We want to stand behind you and your work. And what we'll be asking you is, how can we do that? How can we support your work in the way that you've described through the proposal that you've given us? So we will work that out individually with each fellow. Separately, and in a much more minor way, we will provide opportunities, again, with 3 to 5 fellows. They'll just be scheduled based on everyone's availability and such, for fellows to interact with one another, to chat about the work that you're doing, potentially chat about any kind of collaboration that might be useful, sort of reflect and share your kind of learnings and expertise. Those won't be intensive meetings. Those again won't be sort of like homeworky kind of course meetings or anything like that. It'll just be opportunities for our fellows to interact, to make sure you're getting good time to do that. If the cohort of, say, 4 chosen fellows is excited about doing that every month, we're happy to host a conversation every month. If not, maybe it'll be every, 2 or 3, just kind of quarterly check-ins, something along those lines. We're happy to adapt that for fellows as well, but those are basically the two pieces. Is that helpful? I'm happy to clarify if you have any other questions about that.
Yes, that was helpful. Thank you. And then I put in the chat, what are some examples of support? Because you've said a number of times that you're here to support us, but we need to be able to have the capacity. So if you could just give us, what are some examples of support?
Absolutely. And I know we are, I'm happy, I didn't ask Kelsey, but Tabitha and I are happy to stay for a few extra minutes after the hour to chat more. So I'm going to switch to our slide with our contact info here, so you can all have it, and then I'll just continue answering questions. So Kelsey, feel free to hop in on this question if you have additional thoughts. But you heard a bit, sort of from Kelsey earlier about the specific support that we provided to her, which was based on her study and what was needed, what she suggested would be useful. So we had conversations with Kelsey about the scope of her study. We talked through some questions that arose for us in reviewing her proposals before she submitted them for grants, and in some cases, I would say put in some pretty substantial kind of review time to think through those proposals as well. We worked with Kelsey to identify some potential locations to apply for grants. I think in your case, Kelsey, you came pretty well prepared with many that you wanted to apply for. But I'm always working kind of on lists on opportunities for folks to apply for grants that we will be happy to, to share with fellows and to talk you through. Support from our accounting team, again, includes, potential grant management. On Kelsey's study, I'm a co-PI, so that gives her a co-thinker and some additional experience on that study that she can draw from when describing study personnel. So we can add SEF folks, not necessary, but we can add SEF folks as additional personnel to your study to kind of build out who's on it without needing to hire other folks. Those are just some examples that I think kind of link to, what Kelsey shared and what I would think would be common. So I'm happy to say more if you'd like to hear more. And Kelsey, okay, great. And Kelsey, feel free to hop in if there's anything else to add.
Yeah, no, I think you covered it. And I felt really lucky that there was a lot of synergy between the experience and expertise at SEF and my study, particularly Tabitha, who's also worked on social and emotional learning. So Tabitha's also listed on my study as part of the team, which has been really great. And so, yeah, another piece of this, which I personally really appreciate, is having critical dialogue and not always having yes people to agree with you and be like, yes, your study is amazing, but actually having critical eyes on your essays, on your budgets and things like that. And so Max and I have had back and forth where it's like we disagree on a certain thing, but that's okay. That's really generative and positive and productive to get multiple viewpoints on how somebody who might be on a review committee for a grant or even an IRB committee or trying to create a relationship with a school or wherever you want your study to be, having multiple perspectives to sort of think through how people might experience things, how people might react to things, even certain terminology that you might use in your proposals for grants or proposing a project to a school that you want to work with. So that was really, really helpful and something that I didn't know I needed, but got organically through that relationship. So what you need, I think they can tailor to you.
So Kelsey has kindly and generously shared her email in the chat, I see as well. So if you have, behind the scenes questions, what are they really like over at SEF? Are they as cool as they seemed from this webinar? Feel free to follow up with her as well. Of course, you can see our, thank you. You can see our contact information here, certainly. So we're a couple minutes before the hour. I want to be respectful of people's times. You are obviously welcome to hop out at any time, but I will hang out for a few minutes. Kelsey, you're welcome to stay if you have a few minutes, and Tabitha will be here, I think, for a few as well. So please feel free to keep your questions going. Thanks so much for being here, everyone. Thanks for your attendance. Follow up if you have questions, and otherwise we will hang out a little longer to see if there are any other questions we can answer. Thanks so much, everybody.